Hello everyone, today we're going to build a blog using Sanity, which is a headless CMS, and ReactJs. So let's get started. I'm going to open up my terminal and I'm going to cd into my desktop. Inside my desktop, I'm going to create a new React application. So npx create React app, and I'm going to call it YouTube-blog. Okay, now that this has finished running, then we need to install a few more packages before we can begin. The first thing that we need to install is the Sanity CLI, which we need to install globally. So I'm going to say npm install @sanity/CLI. And if you're on Linux, then you would need to say sudo npm. And if you're on Mac as well, you need to say sudo npm. So, and actually this is not the correct command. It should be npm install -g @sanity/CLI. Okay, and then I can cd into the folder that is created. So cd into YouTube blog, and then inside here I'm just going to say open VS Code right there inside that folder. So code dot. Okay, so VS Code is open, but I still want to install a few more dependencies. In fact, I want to install all the dependencies that we're going to need before we actually begin. So I'm going to say npm install React router DOM, and then we are going to need another package called @sanity/client. Okay, and then we're also going to need another package called @sanity/block content to React. Okay, I think those are all the packages that we're going to need. So let this run. Okay, now I should mention that if for some reason you're trying to run npm commands and they don't work, then most likely you should check whether you have Node.js installed. And you can do that by saying node-version, and it should give you the version of Node.js that you're running. If this doesn't come up, then probably you should go into nodejs.org where you can install Node.js. Now that this is all up and running, then what I want to do is just say npm start, which will start my dev server. Okay, so this is the default React application, which is running on localhost 3000. Now let me jump back into VS Code, and I can shrink this down now. So let me jump into VS Code, and what I want to do is I just want to open up my terminal, and I want us to create a new Sanity project, right? And I forgot to mention that you will need to have an account with Sanity. You can create an account for free, and I think it's just as simple as saying get started right here. And then once you've done that, then you can just go into your terminal and say Sanity init, which will initialize a new Sanity project. And of course, it gives me an error that says, looks like okay, it's good that this error has come up. Now it's saying that, see, it's setting up a new project, and it's saying that I already have a Sanity account, but it's still not logging me in, right? So what we need to do here is you need to log out first of all. So Sanity logout. Okay, and then you can say Sanity init once again, which will prompt you to log in once again. Okay, prompt you to log in, and I'm just going to log in with Google. It's going to open up in my browser. Okay, so once you've logged in, then it's going to give you this, and you can now close this and go back to your terminal. And then I'm just going to say create a new project. Okay, so I have a couple of other projects here. I have quite a few, but I just want to say create new project. And for this, I'm just going to call this YouTube blog. Okay, and this folder is going to be created right inside here. Okay, and you're going to see it once it's done. Use the default dataset configuration. We want to say yes, and of course project output path, I want the project to be inside here, so this is correct. And then we're just going to select blog because that's what we're dealing with. Okay, and then we're just going to let this run. Okay, so once that is done, then you can see it throws us a warning in our console, and we're going to fix that. So let me just close this, and let's go into our Git. Ignore it. You can see that we have 5,000 changes. We don't want to commit node modules to GitHub. So inside our Git ignore, we're just going to remove the / here, which will grab the node modules above as well as the node modules that is created here, and it's going to ignore them, so that when I reload this, then we should have about 21 changes. That is correct. Now, let's do this. Let's start our Sanity studio. So I'm going to say Sanity start, like so. And of course, I'm in the wrong folder. Sorry, I need to cd into YouTube. Come on, cd into YouTube blog, which is the folder for my Sanity studio. And then I'm going to say Sanity start, we should start this on localhost 3333. Okay, so if you go to localhost 3333, then we should see something like this. It should prompt me to log in. Okay, so just log in once again. And localhost 3333 should be this. It should be completely empty because we don't have any new projects, right? So we can view the post, we can view the author and the category. Okay, now I'm just going to leave this hanging for a moment, and I want to go back into our React application so that we can begin building this out. Okay, so let me just place this full screen. And then now inside my source folder, okay, I'm going to create a new file called client.js. And remember, we installed an npm package called Sanity client. So I'm going to import client from @sanity/client. And then I'm going to say export default client. Okay. Project ID, we're going to get that in a moment. Dataset, we set dataset to default, okay, which is production. And then we're also going to say use CDN and set this to a boolean of true. And then we're also going to add API version and set this to today's date, so 2021-08-05. Okay, the dataset here is set to production. And then the project ID, let me show you where you can get that. In your Sanity project, you can go into sanity.json and you'll find your project ID right here. And this is going to be different for you as well. So if you copy this, it will not work for you. So just paste this inside here and then we can save this. And I think this is all we're going to do in this file. Okay, now let's go ahead into app.js, and we also installed React Router DOM, right? So I'm going to remove all of this. And then I'm going to remove this, and then at the top I just want to import browser router, come on, I can spell. And then I want to import route and then switch. These are coming from React Router DOM. Okay, and then right inside here, let me wrap all of this inside browser router. And then we're going to have the switch component. So this is just basically us setting up our routes. And the first route obviously is going to go to the /, and this is going to be our home page. And it's going to be rendering the home page route, which we don't currently have. And then also I want to render a navbar, or rather a header, which I don't have as well. That's why I'm placing them in comments. And then the second route that we're going to create, the path for this is going to be /blog. And this is going to be housing all our blog posts. And then the third one is going to be route, and the path for this is going to be /blog /:slug, and we're going to see where that slug is coming from. And this is going to be rendering the single blog post component that we don't have as well. And then finally we need an error page. So this path is going to be /all, and then it's going to be rendering error component, or rather error page, like so. And what this means is that all the other parts apart from the ones defined here are always going to match the error page. So let's start importing all of this actually. So I'm going to say import header. We don't have these files currently. So import header from .components/header. We're going to create them in a moment. And then import homepage from .pages/homepage. Like so, and then just copy this down 3 more times. And then this is going to be single post, so single post. And then finally this is going to be error, and I've missed one, I've missed the blog page, so blog. Okay, so let's go ahead and create all of these components. I can remove these comments and then switch this into header, like so. Now before we save this, because it's going to throw us an error, let's go ahead and create a folder here called components. And then inside components, I'm going to create a new file called header.js. And then once again, inside the source folder, I'm going to create a pages folder. Inside the pages folder, I'm going to create blog.js. And then I'm going to create homepage.js. And then I need single post.js. And then I also need error.js. Okay. And then let me close this so that it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. Before I forget, let's create a netlify.toml file. And the reason for this is we want to redirect all the routes, all the error pages rather, to our custom error page. So we are directing them from /all, like so, and these are going to /index.html with a status of 200, like so. So this will always ensure that Netlify is going to use our error page instead of their custom error page. So in error.js, let me just say _rfc, okay, and let me mention this. In my extension, I have ES7 React Redux GraphQL and React Native snippets. This is the extension that allows me to do shorthand commands such as _rafce to generate an arrow function, or _rfc to generate a function component like so, and export it as default. So you can go through this, you can read through this if you want, but I'm not going to go through that right now. Okay, so this is the error page. I just want to return an h1 that says error page. And then in single post, let's say _rfc once again, let's return an h1 that says single post. And then in homepage, let's say _rfc once again, return an h1 that says homepage. And then in blog, let's say _rfc, return an h1 that says blog page. And then in header.js, let's say _rfc. And for this, I actually want to just code it out right away. So we're going to return a header and then a div with a class of logo. And I should mention that we're going to use styling for our styling, just because I don't want to get into the styling part of it all that much. And then inside here, we're going to have a link component, and the link is similar to an href. So this is going to be linking to the /route, which we have created right here. So it's going to be showing the homepage component. And inside here, I'm just going to say home. Sorry, not home, but it should say Sankara's blog, for example. You can place your name here, or you can give whatever title that you want, and probably place this inside an h2 like so. And then below this div, I'm going to have a navbar with an unordered list with two list items like so. And these list items are going to be, let me just make them buttons, for example, a button. And inside here, let's have a link. This will be going to the /blog page. Okay, close it out. Link like so. And the text for this is going to say blog. Okay, and probably I've done this wrong, but let me just copy this inside here, paste it in, and then this should say blog. So this should be / and then this should say home. So clicking this button will take us to the home page, and clicking this will take us to the blog page. So let's save this, and let's go into app.js, and let's save this as well, and let's see what we have on the screen in our React app. Just reload it. Okay, so link is not defined. I always forget that. So let's just import it here from React Router DOM. Right there. So import link from React Router DOM. And we should have this. So this is going to take me to my homepage, and this to the homepage as well. And this is going to take me to /blog. Okay, so that's looking almost amazing, but something's not working. Blog page should be rendering my blog page. So let me just check this. Okay, and the reason why it's rendering the home page even though we're on the /blog route is because this should have an exact prop. And what exact means is that only when it is the / should this render. Otherwise, it's going to check for these other routes and these other routes as well. So let's save this and let's see what we have. So we have blog page, and we can go back to home page, and let's just confirm that our error page is working as well. Okay, so while we're in the browser, let me just go into cdnjs.com so that I can grab Tailwind CSS for our styling. And of course, my internet is down, so let's leave that hanging once again. Okay, so let's go back into our home page, and let's see what we're going to have. So in our home page, let's structure this just a bit better. Let's return a section, and then an h1 that says, let me say Sankara's blog. Rather, let's just say Sankara's blog. And then below this, let's have a button, and this is going to have a link component. This is going to be linking to /blog, and it's going to say read my blog posts like so. And then let's import this from React Router DOM right at the top. So let's save this and let's see what we have. There we go. So read my blog post, and then this is going to take us to the blog page. Okay, So let me reload this. Let's see if this is working. And there we go. Okay, so let's grab Tailwind CSS. So Tailwind, just copy this link tag, and then let's go into the public folder, into the index.html, and right here let's copy, let's paste it rather, and then let's change this title to blog using Sanity CMS, and that should change the title right there. And then it should reset the styling as well, because we have now applied Tailwind. Okay, so inside this section, let's give this section a class name of flex and item center and justify center and text center as well. And then let's say h screen, so that it's going to go to the center right there. And then of course, let's say flex column, so that the items are stacked on one on top of the other. And then for this h1, let's give this a class name of uppercase and font bold, and let's say text 4XL. Okay, and let's say tracking wide, and tracking is just to increase the letter spacing. There we go. And then margin bottom of 10. Fantastic. Let's say 5. 10 is too large. And then let's say that for medium screens, let's increase this text to 6XL, and for large screens, let's say text 8XL, which will make it insanely huge for large screens, just like that. Fantastic. And then let's go inside this link right here, give this a class name of padding on the y of 2 and padding on the x of 6, and a rounded border and a small shadow, of course. And then let's change the text to white and the background color to black. Let's say this. Let's see what we have. We have that. Okay, so let's see, let's have a hover state. So for hover, let's change the background to transparent. Okay, and then let's say, let's add a border, so border 2 and border black. And then let's add a transition of 500, transition all, and a duration of 500. Let's see, look at that, so that we have that. And then for the hover state, let's change the text to black, so text black, so that we're going to have this looking fantastic. And I want the font to be bold, because that is just too small. There we go. We have this, so that when you click this, then it's going to go to the blog page, and so on and so forth. Now this, we are going to be pasting these styles, because this is the default styles for all our buttons. So I only did it once, because we're going to copy paste it in all our other buttons. So let's go into the header. Okay, and probably I think this is going to be it for the home page, but let's go into the header. And this header, let's give this a class name of flex and item center and justify between, justify dash between, like so. And then let's give this a bg of black and text of white, text of white. Let's see that. Fantastic. Let's give it a padding all round of 5. Okay, looking nice. Let's go inside this h2, give this a class name of, come on, font dash bold. Okay, let's say text dash XL for small screens. For medium screens, let's say text dash 2XL. And then for large screens, let's say text dash 3XL. Let's see how this looks. Okay, I think that's nice. That's nice. Now let's style this out. So inside this UL, let's give this a class name of flex, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to go inside this first list item and give this a class name of margin on the right of 5. Okay, which will do that. Now the reason why I'm not adding this on this second list item is because we already have a padding of 5 all round. So if I add a margin on this second list item as well, then it's going to have a spacing of 10, which I don't want. So let's do this. Let's see what you can do. Let's say font bold. Sorry, not font bold, sorry, not font bold, but let's increase the text. So text dash large should be fine. Okay. And you know what, rather than doing this here, let's say that for large screens, then the text should be large. And then I can just copy this, and then I can add it on this second list item. So class name equals to that. So only on large screens, then the text is going to be large. And on small screens, it's going to reduce the font size. Okay, looking fantastic. So let's see, I can close this. Now let's go into fonts.google.com, because I want to grab a font called Tajawal. Let's see, there we go. So grab this font and grab the, let's say the medium 500 and the bold 700, and then just grab this link, and then let's go into our index.html once again right here. Let's paste it above Tailwind. Let's save this, and then now let's go into index.css. Okay, we haven't touched this file yet. We can remove this, and then on the body we can remove this as well and say set this to Tajawal with a fallback of sans serif, like so. And this should reset the text just a bit. Look at that. I like this font, it looks nice. There we go. So this is going to be our default font, and then probably I want to change this background color to a very slight gray. So let's say background color, set this to hashtag F1 F1 F1. A very slight gray, it's almost unnoticeable. And then that is going to be it for our homepage. Now what we need to do is let's go into the blog page, and then we can start styling up the blog page. Okay, now for the blog page, let me close this. I don't think we need it. We can close this, and we can close this, and for the error page as well, you can close it just for now. Now let's go into the blog page. Okay, and for the blog page, I'm going to be turning an empty fragment first of all, and then inside here we're going to have a section. Okay, and let me just bring this inside. Now this is where we want to start fetching our data, right? So what we need to do obviously is we need to have state values, and then we need to import the use effect hook because we're fetching data from the Sanity API. So I'm going to say import use state and use effect from React, like so. And then we are also going to import client from // Remember, we created client.js inside our source folder right here. We created client.js. This is very important. And then let's set up our state value. So I'm going to say const posts and set posts. This is going to be equal to use state, and by default it's just going to be an empty array. Okay, now inside here this might be a bit confusing because we're going to be using a query language that was designed by Sanity, and it's called GROQ, G-R-O-Q. It stands for Graph Relational Object Queries, and if you want to read more about it, then check the link in the description because I've linked it as well. So here we're going to say use effect. Okay, set up our use effect like so. Set up our callback function and set up an empty array so that it only runs on the initial render. And then we're going to say client.fetch like so. And then we're going to place our template literals. Okay, now inside here we're going to say star and then place it like this and say underscore type equals to post. Okay, and I'm going to show you where this is all coming from. Okay, and inside here let's place our brackets and say where we want to get the title. Okay, and then we want to get the slug and then the body. Okay, and then main image, and then main image is also like somehow like an object. And then inside here we're going to want to get the asset, place an arrow, and then we want to get the URL. Okay, and then we want to get the underscore ID like so. And then below this we want to get the alt attribute. Okay, remember to place that comma as well. And then once we get this, then we just want to go below this and say dot, then the data that we get back, because we're getting data, then we want to just say set posts into the data like so. And then we want to have to catch, in case there's an error, we want to catch the error, and then we're going to say console.error can spell like so, and this should work fine. But you'll notice that we are not going to get anything. We're not going to show anything on the screen, and let me show you what I mean. If I add an h2 here and say you are viewing, let's say you are viewing posts.length blog posts, look what happens. It will say you are viewing 0 blog posts, right? And the reason for that is because first of all, we don't have any blog posts that in our Sanity Studio. That is the first reason. The second reason is because of something called cross-origin resource sharing. I think that it is. If you check in your Chrome debugger, then you'll notice that you have some errors in the console, and it says access to this has been blocked by cause policy no access control. So what we need to do is this. Let's go back into our terminal, and remember we were running Sanity start. Remember we run Sanity start. So I'm just going to stop this, and then I'm going to say Sanity manage. Okay, and this will open up a web interface where we can manage our Sanity Studio. And once again, it's going to prompt you to log in. And there we go. So it will show you the name that you gave to your project. It will show you your project ID here as well. It will show you the number of members that you have, but that is not important to us. So let's go into settings. And then in settings, you'll find API settings here, and then you'll find course origins. And you can see that it is allowed from localhost 3333, which is where our Sanity Studio lives. But we can add a new course origin here because we're working with the React, and React runs on localhost 3000. And then once we add this, we can just say save. Okay. And obviously it's going to save this. Now, if we go back into our blog and reload this, okay, and then say F12, and of course I think we need to restart our Sanity server. So let's say Sanity start, and look at this. Now once we add the course policy, then look at this, we no longer have any errors in the console. So now in order to add blog posts, let me show you what we do. We're going to go into our Sanity Studio on localhost 3333. So once this spins up once again, so let's go to localhost 3333 once again. We can just reload this actually, and there we go. So let's create a new blog post by going here and say it's loading the post. Okay, so the title for this, let's just say Ocean's Wave. If I can just type it, and then this is where the slug is coming from. So the slug is the URL that is going to appear in the omnibar, in the address bar of whatever browser that you're using. We currently don't have any author, so this is going to be blank for the moment. And for the main image, I'm just going to say upload. And I have a couple of images in my desktop, so let me just get them. So blog 1, okay. And the category, we don't have any category yet, so this is going to be empty as well. And then published art, we're just going to say, grab this and just set it to the current time. And then for the body, now for the text inside the body, I'm just going to go into random text generator that I can get some random text so that we can have a good amount of text to work with. So I'm just going to grab all of this and paste it inside here. Now, one thing that I should mention is you can have normal text, which is the paragraphs. You can have H1s, H2s, H3s, and H4s, and you can include quotes. You can make items to be bold. You can make them italic. You can make bullets, or you can include links. Okay, so let me just show you by adding an H1 here saying Ocean's 11, like so. And then I'm going to grab this and just transform it into an H1, and look at that, it's going into an H1, but I want to make it an H2 because it's never a good idea to have more than one H1 per page. So this is going to be the title of our blog post technically, because we already have our title at the top. Okay, but I'm just adding this because it's a nice showcase of what Sanity can do. And then I'm just going to click publish. And then for the author, I'm going to create a new author. Okay, so loading author, I'm just going to add my name, or rather myself, and then generate the slug for this. And then for the image, let me just upload another random image. And then for the text, let me just say front-end web developer. And then we can publish that. Okay, that's the author. And then let's add a category. So for the category, this is going to be simple. Once again, let me just say blogging. And let's just say adding random blog posts to random websites. And then publish. Okay, fantastic. Now, when you go back to post, we can click on this post to edit it. And then now I can add an author using this drop-down list. I can add myself. And then I can add a category here by clicking this drop down once again and adding the category of blogging, which I've just created, right? And then we are going to publish this once again because we need to publish it so that you can fetch the data in our React application. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 5 more blog posts so that we have a good amount of content to work with for this tutorial. I only did the first one to show you how to work with the Sanity Studio backend, technically backend, even though we are running it on localhost 3333. So let me go ahead and create my 5 blog posts. Okay, so I have my 5 blog posts right here, and now let's go back into our React application to see what we have. Okay, so once we reload this page, then you'll see it's now fetching the data from the Sanity CMS API, and you can see it's saying you're viewing 5 blog posts, which is correct. Now let's just structure how we want all our data to look. So inside here, I'm just going to create a div, and inside this div, I'm going to say posts.map. And then for every single post, then I want to return a few things. I want to return an article, if I can just spell it, with the key, and the key for this is going to be equal to the post.slug.current. And what I'm saying here is the unique key, because when you return a list which is coming from map, then every item needs to have a unique key, and the unique key is going to be coming from post.slug.current. So what this means is it's going to check the slug, which, as you know, I've just defined it. It's going to be the URL that we have in our address bar for the current blog post that we have. Okay, and every blog post has a different title as well, so this is always going to be unique. And then once we close this out, then I want to return an image. Okay, and the source for this image is post.mainimage.asset.url, which is coming from this. So post.mainimage.asset.url. okay, and the post that I'm saying is not actually this one, it's this one. It's this one once we map over it right there. And then for the alt, in case the image fails to load, okay, in case the image fails to load, then I'm just going to say post.title, which is the title of the blog post. And below this, let's have an h4 that says post.title. okay, and then below this, let's have a link, and this is going to be linking to, and this is going to be dynamic, by the way, and this is going to, let me just say, read full article. So this link is going to be dynamic, and it's going to be dependent upon the blog post that we have. Okay, remember in app.js we said /blog/slug, so we're going to be getting the slug for every blog post, and then we're going to place it inside here dynamically. So this is going to say /blog/ and then place my $sign and place my curly brackets, and then I'm going to say post.slug.current. So this will always ensure that once you click on the button, it's always going to check for whatever blog post that you've clicked on, and that is the one that is going to show you. Okay, so let's save this. Let's see what you have. Link is not defined. Of course, I always forget to import it. So import at the top, and we should see, reload this, it does that sometimes, and we should see this. Look at this. So we are viewing 5 blog posts. We have my image, we have the title right here, we have the button that I don't want to click yet for a reason that I want to explain, and we have everything looking fantastic. Okay, now remember how I said that we're going to be copying these classes? So just copy this once again, and then in our blog, let's add them right here. Okay, so save this, and we should have this for the button. And then let's go inside this div, give this a class name of grid, and grid columns 2, rather 1, and then a grid gap of 5. Okay, and then for medium screens, then I want the grid columns to be 2, and then for large screens, then the grid columns should be 3. And then let's grab the entirety of this link, cut it out, and then place it inside a button. And I want it inside a button so that I can add some margins on the top and bottom of this button. So margin top of 5, margin bottom of 10. That's looking almost manageable. And then now let's go inside here once again. Let's add a padding on the x-axis of 5, which will push all of this inwards like so. And actually, you know what, instead of adding it here, let me add it on the parent section. So this section, give this a class name of padding on the x of 5. Okay, let's go inside here, this h1, give this a class name of font bold and text -4xl, margin top of 5, margin bottom of 10. Let's say tracking widest. Okay, and let's say text center. Let's see what we have. We have that. Okay, and then let's say that for medium screens, then the text should be 6xl, and then for large screens, then the text should be 8xl. Make it insanely huge. And then for this, let's grab this, let's give this a class name of text xl. Okay, and text center. and probably we don't want this to be separated from this so much. So let me say margin on the bottom of 5 as well. And then we can go inside here and then make this margin at the bottom of 10, because these are technically almost the same thing. And you know what, instead of having this, we can actually just remove it. It's adding a bit more difficult in styling. So we can increase this back to 10. Okay, that's looking fantastic. So we can read the full article, and then let's just style this h4, right? Give this a class name of font bold. Rather, instead of font bold, let's just say text dash XL. Should be big enough. Let's say margin top of 2. Think should be okay. Now let's increase this. Let's make this bigger. Let's see what we have. And we have this. So this is our blog page. We have okay, I think this looks nice. This looks nice. Let me just add a bit of margin on the left and right of rather, let me add a max width. So right inside here, I'm going to say that for 2XL screens, then I want the max width to be 8XL. And then let's add 2XL MX, set this to auto as well, so that we're going to have this. Nothing is going to change all that much, but you know, let me grab this from here and let me add it on the section. Let me see what happens. I don't think 8XL is a class that exists. Let me just confirm this. Okay, so 8XL does not exist, so I should make this 7XL and change this to 2XL, so that when I save this, then we should have this. Okay, that's looking fantastic. Great. Now let's just go back into index.css to style out all these images. Where is my index.css? Right here. And let's say that for all the images on my website, then I want the max width to be 100% so that they don't overflow outside of the container. And then I want the margin to be auto so that they're always going to be centered. And I'm going to show you why we need them to be centered. So this is our blog page. Now we need to work on our single post page for our singular posts. Now, one thing that I should mention is that I downloaded kind of rectangular images and they're almost the same height. But sometimes you don't have images that are the same height, and you'd want to specify the height here as well, if you want to do that, of course. And of course, if you want to have a different layout, for example, if you want all of these blog posts to stack one on top of the other, then you can do that as well. Now let me show you something interesting. If I click on this, notice how the URL changes, but we don't see a change in terms of the content that is rendered on the page. Okay, if I click on this, it should change to the final chapter because that's the slug that we're targeting, and so on and so forth. So the reason why that is happening is because if you go into app.js, we render the blog page and then we render the blog slug page. Okay, now we don't want that to happen, right? We don't want that to happen. We want this to render before this. So in order to fix that, then this /blog slug needs to come before this route. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to hold down Alt and move this upwards like so. And then now look, the content immediately changes. If I go back to the blog page and click on this second one, then we should see single post and so on and so forth, right? So that is working correctly. Now what we need to do is, and actually let me show you a different way that you can do this. You can remove this from here and you can render it as a children component. So you can render it as children and just set this to single post like so, and this should still work the same way because, you know, nothing really changes all that much. It all depends on how you want to render all of this. Now let's go into our single post page and let's figure out how we're going to render all of this. And we're going to do something similar like we did in the blog page. So I'm going to say import use state and use effect from React, and then I'm going to say import client from /client, and then set up my state values. And why do I have an error? Oh, okay, it was just spazzing out. So let me set up my state value. So I'm going to say single post and set single post. This is equal to use state. By default it's an empty array, and then here I want to have some kind of loading state. So is loading and set is loading, and by default this is going to be true. And then finally we need to have what? We need to get the slug. Okay, so we need to get this slug from here and then we need to fetch the data of that slug which is linking to a particular blog post and then display it. So in order to do that, then we need to get a hook that comes with the React router DOM called use params. So I'm going to say import use params from React router DOM. And while we are here, we also need to import link because we need to link back to other pages. And then below this, we're going to say const and the structure, the slug, like so. And this is equal to use params, like so. So this is going to get the params from here, and then we're going to use it to fetch the data for our blog posts. So I'm going to say use effect, like so. Okay, set up my callback function, set up an array, and we're going to change this, and I'm going to explain why. But for now, let's just leave it empty, and we're going to say client.fetch, like so, and we're going to say once again asterisk, and then we're going to say the slug.current, which is equal to, okay, this might be a bit confusing, which is equal to the $, come on, the $, slug. Okay, so let me just explain this. We're checking that the slug for the blog post that we are linking on is equal to the slug that is in the omnibar, in the address bar of whatever browser that we're using, right? So once those match, then we want to just say get the title once again, get the body should be, and then get the main image, come on, get the main image, right? And then we want to get the set, come on. And then inside here, we want to get the underscore ID and the URL. And then here we have an alt attribute, okay? And then below this main image, which ends right here, then I want to get the author name. And this is coming from author, get my arrow, come on, and the name right there, okay? So what this means is I want to get the author name, which is coming from the name and then the author, and then I want to place it inside a kind of variable, which I'm calling author name, like so. And then of course we want to say dot, then the data that we get back, we want to say set single post into the data, and then here we want to say 0, okay? Now the reason why we're saying data and then placing 0 here is we want to get the first item that matches the slug that we are currently on, okay? So that's what this means. If you don't include this, then you're not going to see anything on the screen. Now inside here for the array, for our dependency array, we want to place the slug. And what this means is that every time that the slug changes, meaning every time that we click on a different blog post, then we want all of this to rerun. And the reason why we want it to rerun is because we are fetching data for a different blog post, okay? And of course that should be okay. Now let's structure our return, and I'm just going to place a conditional here where I'm going to say if isLoading is true, then I want to return an h1 that says loading ... And then if it is not true, then I'm going to render everything and we're going to structure it. So for now, we should always see loading on the screen. There we go. So it says loading, expected what? This is the problem. Let me remove this for a moment. Let me just remove it. Let me see. Okay. So let me just remove that for a moment. Okay, so let's save this, and then let's structure our return, right? So I want this to be inside brackets. Now what we want to do here is, instead of just rendering this single post like so, then we want to say render a section. I can type. So render the section inside here, and then inside this section we want to get an h1, and this h1 is going to say single post dot title. Once again, single post dot title is this, okay? And then below this we're going to have an image, and this image is going to be coming from single post dot main image dot asset dot URL, okay? And then the alt is going to say single post dot title, and then we're also going to add a title attribute for this for screen readers, and it's going to say single post dot title once again, okay? And then below this, let's have a paragraph, and this should be the byline. So I'm going to say by. For now, I'm just going to place my name, just hard code it, but you don't want to hard code it in case we have multiple authors. And then below this, let's have a link. This is actually, let me place it inside a button first of all. And this link is going to be going back to the blog page. So /blog, like so. and then let's say read more articles, like so. And then once again, remember, we're just going to copy all of these class names so that we don't keep on repeating them. Copy it, not cut it, and paste it inside here. And then let's save this. Let's see what we have. And of course it's going to be loading infinitely because we don't have it's set to true, but we need to set it back to false, right? So right below this, once we fetch our data, then I'm going to say set is loading to false, and we should see that. Look at that, looking amazing. Okay, so once we have this for our blog page, let me show you something else that is quite annoying if you don't know what's happening, right? If I reload this, then look at this, we get an cannot read property asset of undefined, even though we know that single post.mainImage.asset is actually defined. So what that error means is that this is undefined, but we know that it is actually available, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to place a conditional once again, and I'm going to say if single post. So we are checking if single post.mainImage .mainImage, and then we're also going to check single post .mainImage.asset, right? And if both of them exist, then we want to render our image. Okay, so we're checking for whether this exists, and then also checking for whether all of this, exists, and if they both exist, then we render our image. Otherwise we don't render anything, and that fixes it. Even if I try to reload it, then it fixes it. So let's try this out. So what we're going to do is inside this section, I'm going to give this section a class name of padding on the x of 5 to move it inwards just a bit. Okay, and then inside this h1, I'm going to say give this a class name of actually the same h1 that we had on our home page, which should be this, just to avoid typing too much. So copy this and paste it inside here. Okay, that is going to move to the middle, and then let's just say text center. Okay, let's say margin top of 5, and it already has a margin bottom. Okay, so let's say margin bottom of 10 to increase it from the bottom, and this is how it's going to look on large screen. So it's going to be insanely huge. And then let's go inside our image here. Let me see actually how this image looks. Okay, so for large screen, this image is extremely huge, right? But what we can do is inside this section, I can say that for XL screens, then I want the max width to be 6XL, and then to center everything, let's just say MAX auto. Let's see what happens. This happens, and this image is still too big. So now I can go inside the image and give this a class name and say that for medium screens, then I want the height to be, let's say 96, which is about 400 pixels. Ooh, that's too much. That's too small. I mean, sorry, too small. That's too small. And let's make this to height a third. Okay, but okay, you know what I can do is I can give this image a class name of blog underscore image, and then I can go into my index.css and say for the image that has a class of blog underscore image, then I'm going to say, and actually this should be inside a media query, so at media for a min width of 768 pixels. Then I just want to grab this and say that the height for this, let's set the height to 500 pixels. Let's see. Okay, let's say 600. Okay, so the reason why this image is misbehaving just a bit is because it's kind of almost rectangular or square. So when we increase the height, it's also going to increase, you know, in the width. What you can say here is we can set the width to 100%, which will make it take up 100% of the entire width, like so. And then let's add a rounded border on the image. So let's go back here. Let's say rounded dash top, which will add a border radius on the top, a very, very small border radius, barely visible, but it's okay. And then something, by the way, that you've noticed is that I've not yet included the body of the blog post, right? We can go back to another blog post and we can read another article, but technically we don't have anything shown, right? Look at this. This looks nice. So in order to fix that, remember in the beginning we installed a package called @sanity /block content to React. The reason why we need that is because by default the data that we're getting back as the body from Sanity comes back in terms of portable text. Now, portable text returns text in terms of JSON format. So even if I were to render a div here and then a paragraph, come on, and then set this paragraph to single post.body, notice what happens. Now we get a blank page because this doesn't exist, right? It technically doesn't exist, even though we know that we're getting it from here, right? So in order to fix that, then we're going to render a React component called block content, okay? And this takes in props called blocks, and this blocks is now going to be equal to single post.body, okay? And then it also takes in project ID. Remember, we have project ID and we have dataset. And the dataset here, we set it to production, okay? So let's get the project ID once again. Let's go into client.js and then let's just copy this and paste it inside here, okay? Now this, technically we don't yet have it, so we need to import it, right? So right at the top here, I'm going to say import block content from @sanity / block content to React, like so, block content to React. So let's save this and let's reload this, and hopefully that should work. So we have the title, and look at that, we now have our blog post. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is, I know. So once we have this, then what we need to do is just style it out a bit better and probably increase the font size for this. So I'm going to go inside this div and give this a class name of block __ content. Come on. So, and then let's target it right below this. So block __ content, and I'm going to say that target the paragraphs, and for every paragraph I want the line height to be 1.6, okay, and I want the font size to be 18 pixels. Actually, you know what, instead of adding this here, let me add it as a media query. So right around here, let me say block content, the paragraph, I want the font size to be 18 pixels. So on small screens, this is going to be the default font size, but on larger screens, once I save this, then this is going to be the default font size, which just makes it easier to read, right? And then probably what I can do is, let's say, I think I had an H2. Did I have an H2 for this? I should have had an H2 somewhere. Okay, I added an H2 to this. So let me target the H2. So block content and then target the H2, and I'm going to say font weight, set this to, I think we had 700. Yep. And then let's say font size, make this 32 pixels. Okay, let's say margin, let's have a margin of 10 pixels on the top, 0 on the left and right, and 20 pixels on the bottom. So that we're going to have this. So this is our blog post title, even though we kind of have a big title. So this is kind of like a subtitle, right? So the subtitle, this is our blog post. So look at that, looking amazing. Now, one thing that I need to do is right inside here, inside this section, let me say padding bottom of 20 or rather of 10, just so that we can be able to scroll a bit more after the button. Let's say 20. So that we're going to have this. So that's looking fantastic. That is looking amazing. And the reason why you have these kinds of spaces in between is because in our blog post, when we are writing out the blog post right inside here, we also have these spaces, okay? So let's say, let's go back, let's read another article. Just go back. Let's say, which one was it? The final chapter. Look at this. So we have an H2 here as well. We can add more H2s anywhere that we want just by going into the Sanity blog. And we can say read more articles, we can say all about blogging, and that's looking amazing. Okay, now one thing that I do want to do is, I noticed that I did not style the loading animation. Okay, so this loading. So for the loading, I'm just going to go back into the home page once again and copy all of these styles. Copy this, and then let's say single post, paste them inside here, and then let me say flex and item center and justify center and H screen, so that it's always going to be in the middle of the screen. And then just to test it out, let me comment this out so that we're always going to have loading on the screen. So reload this, and this is how it looks. So that's looking fantastic, amazing. Okay, so before we can finish, we actually need to style our error page as well. So if you go into an error page, then we should have canonical property title of undefined, of course, because this is not in the /blog. So this is going to be our error page. So let's style our error page. And where's our error page? Right here. And once again, it's going to have the same stylings as this. And we're just going to say flex items center and justify center and H screen. Look at that error page. And instead of saying error page, you can say error 44 like so, and say page not found. That's looking nice. That's too big for an error page, so let's remove this. There we go, error 44, page not found. And then we can link it back to the home page by going here and say link this to / like so, and say back to home page, and then of course closing it out, link like so, and then this time remembering to import it like so. So import link from React Water DOM, so that we are going to have, is this not reloading? Oh, it is reloading, but the difference is it's at the bottom. So the reason why is we need to move this from here and paste it here. So class name, and just paste that in. So this will now move here, and then of course let's say flex column, move it downwards, and then we need the stylings from this. So grab these styles and paste them inside here. Fantastic, look at that. So back to home page, and we have our navbar as well. So that is looking amazing. That is looking amazing. And yeah, I think that is going to be it. Now I should mention that, let me stop this server now, and this one as well. Okay, I should mention that if you want to build your Sanity project, then all you have to say is Sanity build. And then if you want to build your React project, then you can say npm run build, and it's the same thing where you can deploy it. So let me create a GitHub repository where I can house this so that you can have access to the finished code. So create a new repository. Let me say ReactJs Sanity log. Create repository, and then copy this. And then inside here, let me cd out of this, and I'm going to say git remote add origin, and then just paste this in, and then say git push -u origin main, which will push the initial commit from React. Okay, so it's not going to push any of these commits, but look at this. Once I reload this, then we have this 1 hour ago, looking fantastic. So all of these comments, I'm going to make them out of the video because I don't want to prolong this video. But I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.